So Link is like this farmer herding goats in this place called Ordon Village, and he's suddenly called upon someday to go on some kind of big adventure, and stuff happens, and he turns into a wolf eventually. And once he's a wolf, there's some crazy stuff that happens, and there's this little imp who seems to have the hots for him. And but no, Link's the rebel. He doesn't fall for that kind of crazy imp love. And so he basically goes on this venture to find these fused shadow pieces. I don't get how a shadow can be made out of a solid object. And when he finds these shadow pieces, he puts them together, and Midna turns into a transformer and basically does all this stuff and then gets beat up. But like it's not over for her, eh? And she ends up getting back at this guy called Zant, who looks like Tingle if he was a Sith Lord. And basically, what happens is he eventually rises up and fights Zant, and by getting these pieces of like a mirror, but it's not like a mirror that reflects normally. It's like a creepy mirror that makes people go ape scat, and it was pretty messed up. It turned this Yeti into some kind of abominable snowman, but not the normal kind of abominable snowman with fur. It was like this thing made out of ice, and it was all crazy and crunchy, and it had this cool music in the background that reminded me of the Nightmare Before Christmas. Anyway, so he gets the last piece of the mirror, and then there's some kind of portal opening up, but first he has to fight Ganon, and then there's this cool stuff that happens. Zelda's like possessed, and like I swear her head turned around and barfed. But then when Link fights her and she doesn't like die, but he almost kills her, but he kills the evil part of her. And then Zelda's like, oh, Link, have my babies. And it turns out okay. Only Ganon has other plans. He's called Ganon in this one, even though he's supposed to be Ganondorf. Even though he's Ganondorf in this one, but he's supposed to be Ganon. And I really don't know what I'm talking about. Wind Waker made the whole Ganondorf thing pretty confusing. Anyway, so they fight, and Ganon turns into a giant pig, and he plans to create swine flu, but Link stops him by shooting an arrow into his forehead, which for some reason is a crystal, because every mythical beast needs a crystal in their forehead to have some kind of composite power. Anyways, he ends up defeating Ganon, and Midna becomes like a hot chick, and he's like, now that you're no longer an imp, we can probably bone, but no, it doesn't end up that way. Midna says goodbye, and there's all this stupid fanfiction speculation, and then they end up saying their goodbyes, and it's all tearful. Link goes into the portal, and we never hear from her again because she was only necessary to the plot of this particular game. Anyways, it all is all happy and people are free and the credits roll and we don't even get to see how Hyrule gets flooded. I assume that's going to be some sequel to Twilight Princess where Link and Zelda build an arc and it's all cool and stuff and you get all these Octoroks and Levers and Tektites and you gotta keep the Dodongos from eating each other. And it's quite tricky though, even when you have all these Dodongos in the arc, you gotta refrain from bombing them because if they're the two of the species that are supposed to be procreating, you gotta keep them alive. Anyways, I have to go. I have to go back to my igloo and eat my craft dinner.